Okay, so let's talk demographics. I wanted to start with actually the definition of the word because this is kind of interesting in a language sense. So we've got demography, demographical, and demographic, and basically it's about statistics about human beings, so numbers about human beings that tell us information about a particular, here we've got segment, so that means part of a society. All right, so producers were looking for a show that would appeal to the 18 to 34 demographic. What that means is that they're looking for a TV show which the 18 to 34-year-old, people aged 18 to 34 would enjoy. So that's a way of doing it. But it actually comes from demo, which means human, so or people. So this is why we've got democracy. So democracy, demo means people. So crassy is government, so it's a people government, so government by the people. But then graphic itself is quite interesting. So we've got, it's the timing of drawn or written, and then a suffix, which means that it's a part of. So it belongs to, characteristics of. Okay, so I think that's kind of an interesting way to think of the word. When we break words up by what they actually mean, so prefix, suffix, and the root word, then we actually end up with a greater understanding of words that we don't know. So now anytime you come across a word with that demo in it, you'll know that it relates to people. And anytime you come across the word with graphic in it, you'll know that it actually means having the characteristics of being a written or drawn type of information about and having characteristics of the people. Okay, so I just thought I'd pop that in there. But let's actually talk about what demographics are. So this is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and why it's called 2016 is because it's based on the 2016 census. So here it tells us how many people we have and what percentage are female and what percentage are male. It tells us the average income. It tells us the countries that people are born in. Okay, and it tells us the different ages. So here you can see that the majority of Australians are aged between 15 and 64. Okay, which is not unsurprising. Okay, and then it tells you how many people are in a household, so 2.6, and whether or not homes are owned or rented. Okay, so here you can see that there's a pretty even spread across renting, having a mortgage, which means the bank still owns part of the house, or being owned outright, which means there's no mortgage on the house at all. So these are all different types of demographics. These tell us different things about the people of Australia. But the thing is that demographics can tell you a range of things in relation to your theme park as well. So we actually use the demographic data, analyse it, think about it, and then make something different from it. Okay, so here I wanted to go through, this is just a wiki page because it has a really nice collection of different types of demographics. So here we've got some general demographics, so population, GDP per capita, don't worry about that, unemployment rate, just a whole range of things there, but it goes through it in detail. So here we can see the breakdown of the cities. So here you can see, if you're making your theme park in one of these cities, you can see what the population is. Now you can also use, so you see here is how it's got the Australian Bureau of Statistics. We've also given you a lot of the statistics in the source booklet, which is on your classroom under the assignment, so you can actually get some information there. But we've also given you some links in the assignment itself to find this information out. Because of course you need to know how many people live in the city to work out how many people are likely to come to your park, but you also need to know how many tourists come and things like that. It's also helpful to know what nationality people are, because if you come from an area, if your theme park is in an area that has a high particular background, you might want to put some of the signs in different languages. So for example, Griffith, which is a town in New South Wales, the last time I visited had signs in it both Italian and English because they've got a high Italian population. Alright, so here we can see where people come from. You can have a look at what religion people are. If you had a dominant religion in your area, you might want to think about that for your park. What language, I've already spoken about that. The Indigenous peoples, so we need to think about whether or not how many Indigenous people might want to visit your park, or whether or not you want to make your park particularly attractive to Indigenous people by having an attraction that's based on the Indigenous past or the Indigenous present or future of the Australian people. And then there's sort of historical, so we can have a look at changes. So it might be that your population in your area is dropping or increasing, so that'll mean different things for your theme park. So we can look at the different changes in population and start to make decisions. So here we can see all of these we've been going up every year, but here we went up at a slower rate. So that means that we can start to make decisions based on whether or not population is increasing or decreasing. And this is why we actually have the census every 5 years, so the government can work out where they need to build more schools, where they need to put more roads and things like that. So fertility rate is about birth rates, you know, and then age is interesting. So for example, if you've got a lot of old people in your area, you might want to think about accessibility for them, or you know, hard of hearing or things like that. So, and here you can see, again, this is trends over time, and here you can see 65 years and older, we're getting a lot more people at that percentage than we used to have. And you can see here 0 to 14 we're being declining. So the government needs to make decisions about that. They can start to use this information to make decisions to support older people rather than younger people. But for your park, you need to be able to think about what the age means of people and what it means for your park. So here we can see this is different types of demographic information. Again, this means a lot more for different types of research than for your theme park, but again, it's just kind of interesting for you to see. Okay, so age is interesting. So here's a graph that shows you some interesting ages, and here where's a bulge is where you can see where the majority of the age is. And gender is also interesting. So again, it's the same style of graph. It shows you where most of the people are, and you might have in your theme park a particular ride that's, you know, more focused for boys than for girls, or for girls and boys. That's, you know, possible. So you need to have a think about what you're doing with that and what the demographics are of your area. So there's a whole range of demographics here, some that are relevant for your assignment, some of them that aren't. But I think it's kind of important to know, you know, different information. One thing that's not on this site so much is the income. It's important to know what the income is of your area if you're trying to attract people to your park, because if, you know, you make your park too expensive, then people won't be able to afford to come. So the demographic part of your assignment means that you've got to collect some data. So you've got to work out the demographics, and we've provided some of that to you. And then you actually then have to analyse it, look at it, what's it telling you, what's the age, what's the wealth, all that sort of thing. But then also think about the tourists. How are you going to attract people from interstate to come and visit your park? You know, are you going to have a particular focus for a particular group of people so you can attract them? That's entirely your decision, but you have to gather the data and analyse it, and that's structured in your assignment.